Hello, it is Lynx here, and today I will be reading The Taste of Music on Your Tongue by Strawberries Banana 2 on AO3. I apologize if my voice sounds weird, my throat hurts a little, but I feel much less sick than last time. So without further ado, let's get started. Summary. His thumb hovered over the screen a little longer than he was willing to admit. Though, the way Bakugo moved, it was sharp, precise, and impossible to look away from. Izuku shook his head quickly, turning off his phone. Nope, scary, not his problem. So no, Midoriya Izuku was not excited to meet Bakugo Katsuki in the slightest. The second the wooden door to Izuku's apartment slammed shut behind him, his back pressed against it and his knees fell to the floor. He tried to kick off his shoe with the other foot, but then he decided he couldn't be bothered, so he gave up halfway through, burying his head in his knees and leaving his shoe hanging off his toes awkwardly. "Oh my God," Izuku mumbled, pressing his palms over his eyes. Izuku's heart raced. He could hear it thump in his ears like a funeral drum. This was really happening. He just met and exchanged numbers with Mina Ashido, the most famous bassist in the entire country, and got himself invited personally to their concert coming up next week. How the hell is he even going to get tickets? It's been sold out since December last year. Can Mina really just pull some out of her ass like that? Or was she tricking him? Nah, he highly doubts that. Ochako wouldn't do that to him. Anyway, probably, hopefully. Why was he even freaking out? Isn't this a good thing? Maybe? I don't know. Izuku doesn't really have many friends that are famous. It's not that no one has tried, but it's not a good idea. Contrary to popular belief, there is such a thing as too much fame. And as much as Izuku doesn't like to admit it, he has had enough fame to last a lifetime. He would never regret taking the role in that movie. It saved his mother's life. He used the money he got from it for Inko's very expensive heart surgery a couple years prior. He taps his foot, waiting for the moment his name gets called out, waiting for some sort of news or update on his mother's surgery. Was it successful? Is she okay? The cold practically made its home in the waiting room. Izuku shivers, pulling his sleeve down farther. There's death and pain around every corner. Will his mother be next? Pegged down and helpless, swallowed by the numb claws of death itself. Izuku swallowed dryly, willing the stupid memory away before he started spiraling. All was well. It was successful in the end, so why was he still like this? Even afterwards, his career had skyrocketed. He should have no reasons for complaints. But could he afford becoming friends with another famous person, especially Paramore of all bands? He's not saying he's famous enough to disrupt their career in the slightest, but still, it's something to think about. Izuku groaned, his arms falling from his eyes and onto the carpet next to him with a soft thud. Izuku rolled his head upwards to stare at the ceiling, eyes squinting at the bright light above. I should talk to Ochako about this. My fellow by disaster, 1409. Are we going to that concert together or separately? Izuku knew the answer. Maybe this was just an excuse to discuss it with her. Call it a conversation starter, if you will. He didn't have to wait long before she answered him. He looked back down at his screen and saw type ... meaning Ochako was typing. Then it disappeared, then reappeared a few seconds later. After a couple more times, Izuku began to wonder if it was mocking him, but the second he looked away, his phone made a soft but audible ping with her response. But said response made him frown. He picked up his phone to read his screen properly and check if he hadn't misread something. My fellow by disaster, 1410. Are we going to that concert together or separately? Ochako, are you sure you want to go? Izuku paused for a minute before responding. Is Ochako deflecting? Is she trying to make him nervous so that he chickens out? What is so wrong with him wanting to go to a concert? It's not like he's bloody performing with the band. Izuku doubts he's even going to talk to them in person. Of course I want to. Why? Do you not want me to go? Ochako, that's not what I meant. I just mean, I don't know. I guess I want to make sure you're okay with things moving so fast. Okay, now he's really confused. Izuku frowned down at his phone, rereading their conversation 3, even 4 times. Was she talking about Paramore, him, or maybe even Shindo? What was moving too fast? Izuku reread her message one last time before quickly typing a response. My fellow by disaster, 1414. Are we going to that concert together or separately? Ochako, are you sure you want to go? Of course I want to. Why? Do you not want me to go? Ochako, that's not what I meant. I just mean, I don't know. I guess I want to make sure you're okay with things moving so fast. What do you mean? It's not like he's gonna be there. Ochako, you're right. I guess I'm just worried about you. Don't be. Ochako, okay, and yes, we can go together. Yay, talk to you later, Chaco. Ochako, talk to you later, Izuku. Izuku turns off his phone, huffing, then stretches slightly before finally climbing to his feet, tucking his mobile into his back pocket. He slowly padded around his small apartment for a moment, opening curtains and turning on a couple of lamps, which was something he normally would have done that morning, if he hadn't been in such a rush. The low buzz of his fridge running kept him company around his mostly quiet apartment. The only other sounds Izuku could hear, minus that annoying fridge that desperately needs replacing, was him, the floorboards creaking beneath his feet, and the hum of distant traffic outside. Once his place was full of sunlight, Izuku opened the door to his bedroom. The scent of some sort of cologne he sprayed on himself in his hurry still hung in the air, making the room a little overpowering. He tore off his shirt that was suddenly feeling a little too constrictive and replaced it with a deep red hoodie that had the drawstrings he liked to fiddle with. He opened the window by his bed, flooding the room with light, and would hopefully air out that annoying chemical smell. Izuku's apartment bathed in deep shades of gold and rosy crimson. As the evening went on, the glowing sun had dipped closer towards the horizon. The apartment smelled like fruit, mint and sandalwood from the couple of different candles Izuku had lit around the place. Izuku loved relaxing afternoons. There was something about a sunset that made him want to stare out of the window until the yellow and orange faded to something that resembled the pink of a fuchsia, then indigo, and eventually midnight blue. Izuku laid on the couch, back pressed against a pillow. He leaned into the back of the couch, practically caging himself in while he doom-scrolled. The light from his phone reflected on his face against the warm sunset glow as he chewed and fiddled with his aglets. Apocalypse by Cigarettes After Sex played on loop through a mini speaker Izuku had around his apartment. The soft rhythm of the song had Izuku humming along, sighing and finally letting go of some tension in his shoulders. He sunk into the couch, allowing the soft and comfortable beats to wash over him in his apartment. Once he turned his attention back to his phone, it was like the phone could read his damn mind. Videos of Paramore's previous concerts showed up on his For You page. Izuku's eyes widened. They all looked so cool. Before he knew it, Izuku went down a rabbit hole of poorly filmed clips of their concerts, interviews, backstage videos, and even edits of this band. Izuku was never really interested in Paramore, which, some people, cough cough, cough cough, would find it extremely concerning, but he just never really gave them a go. His music taste compiled of Rolling Stones, Arctic Monkeys, AC/DC, Cigarettes After Sex, and The Smiths, which was all pretty good if you asked him, but after listening to snippets of their songs through videos on TikTok, he knew he was going to enjoy this concert. There was one member of this band that stood out to him, Katsuki Bakugo, the drummer. Izuku saw one video, or 100, whatever you find more believable, of him absolutely dominating a drum solo and yelling at his bandmates, and Izuku immediately decided he did not want to meet him. He seemed scary, intense, and divine all at the same time. He reminded him a little too much of Shindo. His thumb hovered over the screen a little longer than he was willing to admit, though. The way Bakugo moved, it was sharp, precise, and impossible to look away from. Izuku shook his head quickly, turning off his phone. Nope, scary, not his problem. So no, Izuku Midoriya was not excited to meet Katsuki Bakugo in the slightest. Tossing his phone onto the couch, feeling as though it had personally betrayed him, Izuku rolled off the soft gray cushions. The carpet squeaked as he padded into his very tiny kitchen, fetching a glass from the cupboard. He filled it up with water straight from the fridge and nearly downed the whole thing in one go before grabbing a second. Halfway through, his throat decided it had had enough, and he drained the rest back down the sink. Izuku sighed, leaning against the counter, eyes catching on the clock above his dining table. 7:40. Ochako would be at his door with takeout in 5 minutes. 5 minutes before he had to stop spiraling and look like a functional human being. Perfect. A part of him was relieved she was coming. He needed someone to talk to and distract him from the mess that is his brain. Just as that thought popped into his head, there was a soft knock at his door. Izuku couldn't help but smile as he walked over and opened the door. Ochako barely acknowledged his existence as she barged her way into his home. That was fine with him. Her hands were full of takeout boxes and bags, bringing a savory smell inside with her that already began filling up his apartment. That might have explained why she was in such a hurry to get inside, if she was meeting his eyes. Instead, her gaze landed somewhere past him and his shoulder. "Hey, Izuku, I got you sweet and sour chicken as well as your usual." Finally, they weren't out of stock. Ochako chuckled, shooting him a friendly smile. Izuku grinned back, grateful that she thought of him. He reaches over toward the bag, peeking inside. "You're a lifesaver, Chaco." She laughs and walks over to his kitchen. She had gotten drunk in his apartment enough times that she knew it like the back of her hand. She grabs a couple of glasses for them and places them down on the table, still averting her eyes away from his face. Izuku bit back a concerned frown. Izuku sat down, taking out the food from the bags and placing them down in the middle of the table while Ochako poured them both a glass of Coke. "Everything all right?" Izuku asks, trying to sound casual as he takes a sip of his drink. He focuses on the burning, bubbly feeling of the overcarbonated drink, sliding down his throat and not on the fact that she still isn't looking at him. "Everything's fine, just a little tired, that's all," she responded, taking a large gulp of her drink, still not quite meeting his eyes. "Are you sure?" Izuku pushes, not believing her in the slightest, and she knows it. "You know you can tell me anything." Ochako forces a smile. Izuku can tell because it doesn't quite reach her eyes. In fact, it comes out a little more like a grimace. "I know, and I will, just not tonight. Let's eat our food before it gets cold, okay?" Izuku wants to argue, to find out what's been bugging her this badly, to help in any way he can, but he doesn't want to push, and he can see she doesn't want him to either. "Okay," he responds, taking a bite of his chicken. It's a little overcooked, but still infinitely better than anything he'd ever be able to make himself. The moment that word left his mouth, Ochako visibly relaxed. She let out an audible sigh before leaning back into her chair and starting to meet his eyes again. "So," she began, "do you know what you're wearing at the concert?" Izuku beamed. The conversation flowed naturally after that. They talked about all sorts of topics, the concert, what they'd wear, and how they'd get there. Also, Ochako showed him a couple of beautiful and well-thought-out dresses and skirts she designed recently, and how she was thinking of starting a clothing business after New York. She even listened to Izuku rant about cats for 10 minutes. He doesn't even own a cat, nor is he ever planning to. He just watched one video about cat facts last week and felt a sudden urge to prove them wrong. There was no way cats saw in orange and red. He had ended up going down a research rabbit hole, and suddenly he knew all about purring frequencies and the best way to teach a house cat tricks. Izuku had needed someone to rant to, and Ochako was the perfect person to rant at. Well, almost perfect. She didn't really seem to care too much about what he was saying, but she didn't seem bored or annoyed, just uninterested, which is fine. At least she listens to him and asks questions when he pauses. After Izuku finishes his rant, a comfortable silence falls between them. Only the sound of muffled music coming from the living room. Oh right, his speaker was still playing Apocalypse on loop. Ochako didn't seem to mind much, though. About the concert. Ochako starts randomly. Izuku hums to show he's paying attention. "What if you get recognized?" Izuku's fork stops halfway to his mouth. He didn't think about that. Of course, how could he have been so stupid? "You're famous, Izuku. Remember? Shut up, me." She's right. What if he does get recognized? Izuku frowns at himself. He just wants one night, one person to see him as something other than the famous model Izuku, or even worse, the famous actor Midoriya Izuku. Is that so much to ask for? "I don't know," he answers truthfully, swallowing a bite of his food before speaking. "Guess we just got to make sure I don't get recognized." Ochako snorts, but he can tell she's desperate to say something else. Maybe she'll finally tell me why she's been so on edge recently, or why she doesn't think it's a good idea for me to go to this concert. Izuku looks over at her expectantly, hoping she'll give him some sort of closure, but of course, this is Ochako Uraraka, and she does none of the above. Instead, she sighs dramatically and puts down her spoon. "Are you nervous about meeting the band?" Ochako asks suddenly, making Izuku look up to meet her eyes properly. "What?" Izuku blinked at her for a second. Nervous? Of course he was nervous. But that's just my thing. Is she now telling me there is something to actually be nervous about? Why would I be nervous? Ochako shrugged, stabbing a bite of chicken on her plate, but she made no move to eat it. I don't know. Seems like something you'd be nervous about. Izuku felt a twinge of annoyance pinch at his stomach. He knows she's right. God, of course she's right. But that doesn't stop him from being angry about it. He isn't nervous about everything, and he hates when she assumes he is. But he can't even get properly angry about it because, well, he is nervous. Yeah, I guess I am. Izuku mumbles underneath his breath, a small part of him hoping she didn't hear him. Nicely done, Izuku. Ochako hums in response, nodding her head slightly. She takes a moment before responding, as though she's thinking hard about her next words. Silence settles over them like a thick blanket. Only the sound of chewing and soft background music fills the space between them before she speaks up again. You have nothing to be nervous about, Izuku. They are really nice, and I'm sure they'll love you. Honestly, I'm really glad you're meeting them. For once, her words failed to comfort him. Izuku stares up at his bedroom ceiling in the dark, thinking, as he always seemed to find himself doing nowadays. The things Ochako had said kept playing on in his mind on loop. You have nothing to be nervous about, Izuku. They really are nice, and I'm sure they'll love you. Honestly, I'm really glad you're meeting them. How can she be sure? What if he messes up again? After all, it was his fault Shindo left him, wasn't it? He messed up. He couldn't be good enough. He couldn't bear to see the disappointment on Otako's face when he doesn't get along with another one of her friends. What if she leaves him too? I mean, I wouldn't blame her. What if they leave her because of me and she blames me for it? Snap out of it. Ochako wouldn't do that. Mina has been nothing but nice to him the second they were introduced. Izuku had no right to assume she was a horrible person until she actually did something. Izuku flips over on his mattress, pulling the covers up higher until they nearly swallow him. He needs to stop thinking about this. He needs to stop being so negative all the time. The concert will be fun, and he will have a good time, and he might even make some new friends. Maybe Izuku could actually do this. Hell yeah. I'm fine. Everything is fine. Everything will be fine. Probably. All right. So that was chapter 2 of the taste of music on your tongue by Strawberries Banana 2 on AO3. I enjoyed reading this, and I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this. I apologize once again if my voice sounds booty butt. I am still sick. Teehee. I've been sick for like a week, and I want it to stop. But remember to eat, sleep, drink your water, and take your meds. And when you sleep, go to bed at a reasonable time. Y'all can't clown on me because A, this is being recorded in daylight, and B, I went to sleep before 11 p.m. last night and woke up at 8 a.m. today. So seriously, don't clown on me. The only reason this is being recorded at not my usual time is because I don't have school today, because there is, if you guys know about the storm down, like, in the south of the USA, I'm not all the way down there. I'm, like, literally in the middle of the, like, from southern states to northern states. I'm, like, right in the middle. That's where my state is. So we got hit pretty hard. Sometimes we're considered a south state, sometimes we're considered a north state, kind of where we are. So remember, kids, be do and crime gay.